What's up, folks? Let me know if you can hear me. And once you guys confirm that my video and the audio works, I'll get started. How's everyone doing on this beautiful Sunday evening or afternoon, depending on where you are? Let's see. Okay, sounds good. All right, thanks for tuning in. So today I'm going to talk about, I guess, I entered a Degen yield farm, and if you've been following my channel, I made a video in middle of May, when the crash happened, right? When the crypto markets just nuked out to oblivion. I said that, this is not the condition to be Degen yield farming. I'm going to be entering safer farms, right? And I have not entered a Degen yield farm in the past 2 months. But I think last night or 2 nights ago, I entered one. And just a disclaimer, like always, the goal of this live stream is to go over my thought process on why I actually entered this farm, even though I haven't entered something like this in 2 months. And hopefully the point for this live stream is for you to learn through the research that I went through, so you can do this on your own, right? Because if you just blindly ape into whatever I'm doing, odds of you making money is pretty low. Just because you're always acting after what people like myself are acting. That was awful grammar, but you get the point. And the farm I entered is something called DinoSwap on Polygon. And I'll spend 20 minutes explaining why I did this, because for me to deploy my capital into a farm like this, I really have to spend time and evaluate if it's worth the risk. And I'll go over why I think it was worth the risk. Yeah, I'll just go over it. But also I thought this was a funny photo of my YouTube metrics. My subscriber list literally looks like the price of ETH. It just blew off in early June, and then it's just we're in a perpetual bear market. So obviously my YouTube viewership is down, but I mean I'm still gonna make videos. And if anything, I suggest, this quiet time in the markets to be, I guess, you should see it as an opportunity to do research, right? Other ecosystems like Harmony, Avalanche, Terra, if you haven't had the chance to look at them when the market's going crazy, well, now it's a time to look at it. And on Friday, I released a video on the humble farmer thesis, and it kind of goes over the research that I went through, evaluating those ecosystems, and I'll go over later too. So let's first go over, before I get into a DinoSwap and why I entered it, I'm just gonna talk about this scam email that I got that I thought was pretty funny. So obviously when you have 47,000 subscribers, projects will contact you to promote their scams, right? Or maybe not scams, but most of them are scams. And I got this email that I thought was super funny. And I don't mind bashing this, but I got this email about God's money. I'm like, what? So hopefully you can read this. Let me just zoom in one more time. So essentially, this new token was created by a group of philosophers and theologians. I don't know how to say it, from Italy, Spain, Switzerland, and France, in collaboration with economists and bankers, developing a payment system with the mission of creating money of God, endorsed by the Vatican, and trying, right? They're not going to convince, but they're going to trying to convince the Holy See why they should take advantage of cryptos. And we believe enough for guarantees, yada, yada, yada. It's pre-sale tomorrow, very cheap valuation, market cap of over 50,000 USD. So this project is overvalued by $50,000. It's locked. We'll be delighted to establish a long-term relationship, fairly remunerated. So they're going to pay me. This is all this project is for, is to benefit the church and charity, historical greatness, technological opportunity, and you got to help the poor, right? You have to benefit the poor. Whenever you're creating a new crypto and you're promoting a pre-sale, right? They're contacting me to get into the pre-sale so I can promote it. I'm doing it to benefit the poor people, right? That's definitely how it is. And like obviously, like if they were like real, if they're actually trying to make God's money, then I wouldn't bash them. But like I know they're full of shit because I checked their website, and I mean, first of all, like they have this dark mode, which doesn't really work. I mean, you can kind of see like the shades. But anyways, first of all, like huge potential to rocket to the moon, right? Like they're creating God's money, but they're promoting the fact that it's going to go to the moon, and you know, it's a janky website, and I'm like, did they actually dox themselves? Like, who are these people? Like Edward Burns, Lola Franklin. So I was curious, like, is this person for real? So I Googled Edward Burns on Google, and like that's when I knew that this was like a total scam, because the first website that he popped up was in this real estate company, Sunshine Land Development, with this like really janky website. And if you do this, then yeah, apparently like this dude's on the call, so he's like the sales rep, right? Without like pictures. So that's scam number one. And they also show up in the same website layout, but this is for Hanner Communications IT support services. So blatant scam. I thought it was funny. So I guess whenever you see like a YouTuber talk about a new project with like crazy profit potential, always take it with a grain of salt, because I mean I get these emails all the time. Like obviously I don't partake in them because I think it's full of shit, but yeah, this is nuts. And like as you can see, like I don't even run ads on this channel, right? So my views are my own views, my opinions are my own. I don't take money from anybody. I don't do like paid shills. So you know, this is like the hopefully like through I guess going over like I don't do paid shows, like you can like I can try to establish more trust, but yeah, it's wild out here. But anyways, enough of that. Let's go over DinoSwap again. So first of all, this thing has almost 400 million TVL, so it's already it's like getting up there, because I think the TVL on Polygon is like $9 billion. So you know it's already taking up a lot of capital, like that's in the Polygon ecosystem already. And the farm I'm in two pools. First, I'm in this one, Dino USDC, so the native token, the native farm token with the stablecoin pair. I have roughly $6,700 as of now, and I haven't sold any of this, and I'll go over why I'm not selling it. And I'm also in this pool, the USDC and Mimatic, right? This is a stablecoin pair. Mimatic, also called MAI, is the stablecoin from the QiDao project, MAI Finance. So, you know, 40% on stables. So I have $2,400 here. So roughly a little over $9,000. And in terms of where I pulled this capital from, I had all my Bitcoin on Curve in the HI crypto pool. Like I love that pool, by the way, but I just wanted to like, I guess like activate my Bitcoin, right? And like pull stable coins from it. And I mean, this is like the whole thing behind the humble farmer thesis is like, you need a money market because it offers like flexibility like this, where I can just like take my Bitcoin, put it as collateral and borrow dollars against it. And as you can see, pulled roughly $9,000, and right now I'm at 6,700 here, 2,400 here, so a little over 9,000 plus whatever I'm farming, right? So even though the price of Dino is like down only, I'm still up, right? And this is because the APRs are so high. And you might be asking, like, Taiki, like, what the fuck? Like, why are you entering the Dino USDC pair? Like, didn't you say like 90% of farm tokens go to zero? Isn't this super dangerous? And yes, if this was like some random farm that like launched out of nowhere, like I would never do this. But there are reasons behind why I think this is a plus EV play. Because plus EV meaning a positive expected value. Because the reason I didn't enter any of these Degen yield farms the past 2 months is because I didn't think they were plus EV. But, you know, let me just go over why I think it's plus EV. Because the risk of the Dino USDC pool is that if the Dino token goes to zero, I lose all my money, right? Because it's a LP pair. If the price dumps, then like the pool will DCA like whatever funds in that pool to like the dumping token, right? And people might have experienced it with Iron Finance, where anyone that provided liquidity for like Titan and Matic, when Titan goes to zero, then the pool will sell all their Matic and buy Titan with it, which goes to zero, so you lose all your money. So the biggest risk with with this pool is that it just goes to zero. But I'm pretty confident that it's not going to go to zero, which is the reason that I entered this pool at 3,000% APY. So let's go over the biggest reason on why I think this is. First of all, DinoSwap is backed by very reputable people. And even though like whenever I see like things like this, like these claims by new farms, I don't really take them seriously, right? Because like 90% of farms, like they like die. But you know, they're going to be like the go-to liquidity driver for L1s, AMMs, partnering projects across multiple chains. And they're backed by, first of all, 4 VCs. The Hashed Group, right? Based in, I guess, San Francisco and Korea. Defines Capital, who's one of the largest DeFi VCs in the space, founded by Arthur 0x. He's very, very famous. And I think they run like $200 to $300 million of capital. Digital Finance Group, and the Spartan Group. And they're also backed by the founder of Polygon, Sandeep. They tagged the wrong Twitter address, but Do Kwon, who's the founder of Terra, right? It's actually backed by a real person, not this fake account. And Cole0x, who's the backer of, who is one of the founders for LinkPad, who is another VC. So it's backed by a lot of people. Oh, and it's also backed by the lead developer for SushiSwap, 0x Maki. So let's just go over, I guess, like why I think this is legit. So first, there's this Forbes article about like written by Joseph Young. Keep in mind, Joseph Young is part of the backer, so obviously he's incentivized to pump his bags. And if you know anything about business, like you know that it's not really hard to get an article posted on Forbes, because you just have to be a Forbes contributor, and you can like I think I don't know the exact process, but you can like pay to like post articles on Forbes, right? So, you know, basically this guy says like, hey, like this thing can be the pancake swap of Polygon, and there's $5 million from reputable investors, right? Cool to see. So Hashed Group also, I mean, they have a pretty big crypto portfolio, right? They're pretty big into Mirror and Chai. Where is Chai? Terra and Chai, right? So there's connections with Do Kwon there. This is X out of these. Defines Capital, obviously everyone knows. I mean, I feel like everyone knows who Defines is. Oh, cool, there's DinoSwap here. But, you know, they're one of the biggest VCs. Spartan Group, okay, I'll close this ad. They just raised $110 million DeFi fund, I guess funding, a little over a month ago on June 8th. And I really like their team. They're really smart people. Digital Finance Group, they invest in a bunch of things like Polkadot, crypto, and like equities on these companies. LinkPad and LinkPad is like LinkPad is like a farming VC, so like they're like a fund that like primarily farms. So, you know, pretty good mix of backers. And also, DinoSwap received a grant from Harmony Protocol, which is pretty nice. And if you look at their medium, essentially their goal is to be basically incentivize liquidity for projects across different chains. So what I'm hypothesizing is that it's backed by the Harmony grant, right? So they have money from Harmony team, and they also have money from Do Kwon, who's the founder of Terra, and the Hashed Group, who also is a backer of Terra. So what I'm gonna hypothesize and what I predict in the future is that they're gonna onboard new projects onto DinoSwap with the one token, right, the Harmony token, as well as UST and the Luna token, right? So, and like I guess like the process that DinoSwap goes through is like they strategically only like list projects that they think is good, like that won't go to zero. So, you know, the goal is to, you know, through DinoSwap these projects through different blockchains and like different layers, they can like bootstrap liquidity through the Dino farms. So there's that. And also, like I mentioned, like it's backed by 0x Maki. So where do you think you're gonna buy? You're gonna buy DinoSwap, right? You can buy it on SushiSwap, right? So if Dino works, then SushiSwap will earn more fees, they'll make more money, etc. Right? Keep in mind, like VCs aren't your friends, because like I don't know like what discount they got in at, right? Maybe they got in at a 50% discount, maybe a 70% discount, 30% discount, like that goes behind closed doors. So, you know, it's really hard to see like like if they're in this for the long run. But essentially, these backers just lead me to believe that the rug risk is zero, right? Or very close to zero, at least in my opinion. I mean, rug duck also has that low risk, but I think it has a very low chance to rug. So I don't think this thing is going to go to zero, especially because how the tokens are vested for the team and investors, it's vested over the next 12 months, right? And this thing launched like 2 days ago. So they're not going to just let the token go to zero in the next week or so, right? Maybe they're going to try to pump it up. They're going to actually like create economic incentives to create value for the token. It's still really early. It's still really speculative, right? This is very speculative, right? I am taking on risk, right? But as you can see, like I've done the research. I'm like looking at all the investors and like what are the investors' incentives, right? Obviously the investors' incentives are to make money. But if you look at the incentive, or if you think about the incentives for like Do Kwon and the Harmony team, their incentive is to create liquidity for their projects, right? Because the way the Luna token goes in value is if there's more utility for the UST token. So, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some UST pair on DinoSwap in the next week or so, or maybe 2 weeks. I don't know. And there's going to be some like Harmony 1 pool, right? And I think, all these investors are going to talk about it and stuff. So yeah, anyways. Yeah. And lastly, to touch on this pool, right? Like I mentioned, the risk of this is going to zero, right? The risk of like the native pool, the pool 2 tokens is like it going to zero. And that is the risk I'm taking. Like just because VCs aren't in this doesn't mean that it's not going to go to zero. Like, it definitely could go to zero. If anything, like they invested like less than $5 million, right? That's like chump change for these people, right? They're probably just like tossing money around to see what works. But the reason I think why this is okay is because first of all, like the Dino token is like just down only, right? But the APRs are so high, and I don't think that this token, the price of the token, is gonna go through the same fate of like most other farms, just because of the reasons I mentioned. If you think about the token price over time plotted on this chart of any farm token, right? And you can see that I have 47,000 subscribers given my great artistic skills. Most farms, they look like this, right? Where in the beginning, like people buy it to like farm with it, and then there's absolutely zero value fundamentals behind this token, so it just goes down over time, right? And this is like 90% of farms, right? 90% of farm tokens go to zero. And my base case for the price of Dino is going to be something like this, right? And I scribbled this like 2 days ago, right? So it's like totally like, it's like, I'm just speculating, right? This is a complete guess. But if this is the case, right, where maybe in the next 6 to 8 months, the price of Dino remains consistent, so like the investors have a time to cash out, and the team also gets a chance to cash out, right, through like, I guess the developers like doing good things to create value for the token. Well, in my base case scenario, the Dino USDC pool is going to do really, really well, right? Because the token isn't dumping that hard. If it goes up, then I don't really care because I'm earning, like I don't really care about the impermanent loss just because I'm earning such high APY. And if this is happening, then I'm just printing money on the Dino USDC pair, right? If this happens, then I get wrecked. But that's a risk. That's a risk I'm willing to take. And I call this the Stegosaurus pattern. And if the DinoSwap token does a Stegosaurus pattern, then I'm totally okay with it. I'm actually ecstatic with it. And obviously, like if you join the Telegram, join the Discord, people are saying like, oh, this is the next pancake swap. It's gonna go to $40. But like you should never think of farms that way. Like you should remain humble. Like never try to sell the top. Like with similar to like Iron Finance, like the price of Titan, it just kept going up and up, and everyone was your fork, and then like in a matter of like an hour, it went to zero, right? So I'm gonna remain humble. I'm gonna take profits over time. In the moment, I'm not selling this because I think right now this is near the local bottom. I don't think it's gonna go that low because I mean the developers are good too, right? VCs are backing this because the developers are like actually talented. They're anonymous, so there's no way for me to know. But anyways, basically my goal is I'm just gonna hyper compound this. I'm gonna just redeposit this into the pool when the farming rewards is 2x. This is gonna end like tomorrow night or something, or like 2 days. And then once I hyper compound my LP pair, then I'll just be a humble farmer and just take profits. That's my plan. Hopefully that made sense. yeah, I'm just gonna look at the chat for any questions. Let's see. Oh yeah, and there's like there's no deposit fee, which is pretty nice. And even if you don't want to enter this, the Dino USDC pair, right? It's still a pretty good farm because, like I mentioned, I don't think this is gonna rug, right? I don't think it's gonna rug. So all these other pairs, like you can treat them as like a LP pair on SushiSwap or QuickSwap or something, right? Where you can provide liquidity for USDC Mimetic and earn 39%. Pretty good. I mean, this thing, the stablecoin pair, the USDC Tether, is at 15% with $200 million. So a lot of money is in this. And I think, I mean, it's already at pretty high TVL, which is pretty crazy. Like within like 2 days, they reached $400 million in TVL, and I think they're gonna build features on top of it. So, you know, I'm just hoping, I guess. I know hope is not a strategy I went over, but my research leads me to believe that, you know, what I'm doing here is a plus EV play. And if you know anything about poker or like trading, just because something is plus EV doesn't mean it's gonna work, right? It just means it has a positive expected value, right? And if I make these moves like over 100 times, then on average I'm going to make money, right? That's how plus EV works. So that's just how I'm viewing it. So yeah, sorry. Let me look at questions. How much Dino do you need to farm to justify the price of Dino dropping another 50%? Well, it's not really how much you need to farm. It's just like it's a math game, right? Because literally, like, I mean, I got in like, I don't know, like $3 or something, right? And this thing is down like 40% roughly, and I'm still technically up. So if you start farming and this thing goes down 40%, you'll still technically be okay, given current numbers, right? Obviously, if more people pile in, that the math is not going to work, right? Because farming is just math. It's just like thinking about mathematical probabilities and then allocating capital in that way. Dino launched like 30 hours ago or something, so it's still pretty new. And I don't really buy the narrative that it's going to be the next pancake swap, right? I mean, that's just like the headline that I guess gets retail investors invested. Gets retail investors excited. So I'm just seeing this as a plus EV farm that I'm going to farm and dump after I hyper compound my LP tokens. Yeah, won't Dino only go down because all the farmers will sell? Yes, if the developers don't implement like any value accrual to the token, or if there's like no, I guess, like burn feature. Right now, there's like almost zero burn feature, which makes it like pretty inflationary. I mean, obviously, like this is like what most farm tokens look like, right? It just like goes down. But I think one of the reasons why that's happening is because there was like some UI issue on the extinction pool where you like essentially you burn Dino tokens and you like earn these other tokens. I wouldn't do this because I think it's pretty trash. But there was like some UI issue here that led to less Dino being burnt. They're gonna launch something, I think, soon. And the tar pits, this is where you lock Dino and earn rewards. This is also trash because if you lock this in for 7 days, your APR is 2.5%. Like, who the hell is doing that, right? Like, there's no way in hell I'm doing that. So the burn features and the deflationary mechanics are pretty bad. So that's also a risk. But you know, like I'm just thinking about like the incentives of all the people in here, right? Of all the people behind it. And if you think about the incentives for the investors and the team, and because like if you're a VC and you're putting your name behind a project, like you're taking on risk, right? Because like it's not like if some like random retail investors shows a token and it goes to zero, like there's zero repercussions. But if a reputable VC like shows a token, shows a project, and it goes to zero, then like it looks really, really bad. So like I said, like I'm not saying this thing is gonna fucking gigamoon. I'm just saying that this is gonna fucking go Stegosaurus in the next whatever weeks or months. and I'm just gonna try to profit off of this price action that I think is gonna happen. And obviously, I'm just some dude on the internet that's like speculating. So there's no way in hell that I know that it's gonna happen. But it's a hypothesis, and we'll see if it plays out, right? And we'll see if it plays out. So either I get rugged and I become a meme on the internet, or it works and I look smart, right? Yeah. And how do I find about okay, so I think if you're in crypto and if you're trying to be a humble yield farmer, you have to have a Twitter account, because everything essentially happens on Twitter. Like all the farms projects, they have Twitters, like a bunch of influencers, they have Twitter, and Twitter is where I get my news. So if you're trying to be a humble yield farmer, like I think you have to get a Twitter just so you can keep up with what's happening, right? I mean, like Twitter is like a news source. And like even if you don't like Twitter, right, for whatever reason, I mean, if you're trying to be a farmer, like you just have to use it. You just have to use it. Let's see. Yeah, the risk of the pool is it going to zero. But I went over reasons why I don't think that's happening. So dip would expect to end when 2x rewards end. I mean, that would intuitively make sense, right? But at the end of the day, it's... How do I put it? Basically, there has to be demand for the Dino token, right? In order for the price to just like remain stable, right? And for that to happen, first of all, the extinction pools and the tar pits, these two features, they have to be fixed. It's not really fixed yet. So that's a risk too. But also, like, you can say the same thing about Pancake Swap, because Pancake and this pool, it has a uncapped supply, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with uncapped supply as long as like there's like demand for the token. There's yet to be anything that I see right now to lead me to believe that there's going to be like, I can't look at this right now and be like, oh yeah, like there's so much demand for the Dino token. There really isn't. I'm just looking at the people behind it and dubiously speculating that there's going to be a lot more features released in the future. So, I mean, obviously, like, I guess like when I'm talking about this out loud, it does sound pretty risky, but it is what it is, right? Like I said, the goal of this presentation, I guess, and talking out my thought process is for you to learn about, okay, like this is what it took for Taiki to deploy capital into a farm like this, right? Even though I haven't deployed capital in something like this for the past 2 months. So hopefully you can learn something from this. And yeah, like we'll see, right? I mean, I might just get wrecked and like I'll become a meme, or I just look smart after like 2 weeks or something. We'll see. Is this a better farm compared to Anchor and Mirror combo? I mean, there's no way to know, right? I mean, if you look at it from like a risk-adjusted return basis, like if DinoSwap works out, then it'll be great, right? Given the reasons, because of these high APRs. If it doesn't, then it's bad, right? The risk is very, very high. For something like Anchor and Mirror, I guess like the reward isn't that high, but the risk is also very low. I mean, it's similar to everything in like crypto investments and like stocks. Like if you invest in stocks, it's like, sure, you can lose like 10-20%, but like that's like the worst downside, right? Like, but the best upside you can get is like a 2x over like a period of a year. But in crypto, you take on much more risk, but you also get to reap the benefits, right? If you bought Bitcoin anytime last year, then you're like up a lot, or ETH, right? So it's all about like, what's your risk tolerance? Obviously, like I'm not FOMOing all my money on this, right? This is just capital that I'm okay losing. I still have all my funds on the Anchor and Mirror ecosystem, right? I made a video on it. All my funds are still there, and that's earning me yield. I'm very, very happy about that. But, you know, I have a safe farm that's earning me 40 to 50%, and I have this farm, this farm with high risk, but also like potential for very high rewards. Yeah, and also like, I see people like shilling random projects in my chat. Like, don't listen to those guys, okay? Because like, I know a bunch of like Twitter groups and like Telegram groups. They purposely wait out for like my live streams to show their projects to prey on the viewers, right? My viewers, right? Check out this farm, it's the best. It's gonna 100x or something. So always take anonymous commenters on YouTube with a grain of salt. Always your own research. This is how I do my research. If you follow my channel, you know how much research I do. And, you know, I take a more mathematical approach, I guess, to farms instead of like a full degen approach. And even though this is a degen farm, like, you can see that I did like calculations on like, okay, what's the risk? What's the reward? Is it worth the risk? Yes. Okay. How much capital am I going to deploy? Okay. I'm going to deploy this much. Okay. I'm in the farm. What's my plan? Okay. I'm going to hyper compound this for the first 2, 3, 4 days. And then I'm going to slowly take profits. That's just like the way I'm approaching it. Yeah, that's the way I'm approaching it. Hope I don't get extinct. Same here, buddy. Same here. Let's see. Yeah, that's a good question. What would be a red flag for me, right? Like, what would be a red flag for me to be like, all right, fuck it, I'm out of here. For me, like, the primary reason I'm in this is because the VCs said that. So first of all, like, the vesting schedule, right? Like, the VCs don't just get a bunch of tokens at the beginning to dump on. It's invested over 12 months. So, you know, there's incentive for the team and the VCs, right? So I'm basically betting on the fact that the team at DinoSwap is going to keep adding features to accrue some value and demand for the Dino token, and that there's going to be new features released in the future. And the reason I think that's going to be the case is because of all these backers, right? Do-Kwon, Harmony One, like all these VCs. So it's obviously like speculation, right? But I guess you have to take on some risk when you're seeking higher rewards. Yeah. When do you start to get rewards in HI crypto? Okay, so this is one of the questions that I've seen on Twitter and stuff. So when you're entering the HI crypto pool on Curve, you can't just deposit your assets. You have to deposit and then stake engage, right? So if you go to the Curve website, then go to the deposit tab, and you're probably going to see like stake engage. So if you haven't done that, then you're not going to earn rewards. You have to deposit, then stake engage. Let's see. I missed the hyper compound part. How are you doing that? Okay. So essentially, my strategy for the first few days is to just keep adding to the LP pair, right? So the LP pair is the Dino USDC, right? So I'm adding 50% in the Dino, 50% in USDC, right? So $100 in Dino, $100 in USDC, provide liquidity, stake it, earn rewards, earn 3,000% APR. So my hyper compounding strategy is, you know, whenever I feel like it, I excavate it, right? I harvest, I guess, my dinos, my eggs, right? I let them hatch, and I'm gonna go to SushiSwap. I'm gonna sell half of this to USDC, right? So 117 Dino, I'm gonna sell for USDC. So I have half and half, and then I'll deposit it back into the LP pair, and then I'll stake it again here. This is essentially what like Beefy Finance and like Adamant does, right? They hyper compound it for you. But me personally, I don't want to take on the additional smart contract risk of using these third-party providers. I'd rather do it myself, because sure, it takes like 2 minutes every single time, and it's kind of annoying, right? It takes some time, but like I just don't want to take on additional smart contract risk. So that's just me personally, and obviously like me manually doing it is gonna underperform like a robot doing it, right? Code doing it, because like when I'm sleeping I can't do it, right? And like it's much more profitable, but to like let like a vault do it, right? Like Adamant. But I just don't want to take on that risk, so that's just my strategy. The one dislike is from the God token guy. Yeah, maybe. Sorry. Oh yeah, like since I talked about your project, like I expect $10,000 or something. Yeah. Hold up. This is funny though. Yeah. This is why you should never buy the farm token, right? As in like buy the farm token and hope it goes up. Like I mean, obviously I'm long the Dino token, but like I'm earning this much APR, and like even after a 40% dump, I'm still like up money. So that just shows you how insane these APRs are. Let's see. Rogue Dog rated this as a super high risk. No, that's DinoSwap on the Binance Smart Chain. This is on Polygon. So I guess I should have clarified that. Like I don't use Binance Smart Chain. This is on Polygon, and I don't know. Yeah, like I don't know anything about the Binance Smart Chain project, but that project is like I haven't looked into it, but apparently it's high risk. What are these questions? Yeah, so essentially like if the developers basically like do what they're promising to do, which is obviously like it's not guaranteed, they're only gonna, I think they say here, hold up. Yeah, so DinoSwap consults with projects prior to listing, so they focus on quality over quantity. So it seems like they're only gonna list like quality projects, right? So like STK Ghost is Aave. It's the NFT for Aave, right? It's that thing. And like I mentioned, like Harmony One is backing it and Terra is backing it. So there's for sure gonna be Luna, UST, one token pairs listed on here, and then Do Kwon and like the Terra Twitter account, they're gonna promote it. Harmony One, they're gonna promote it. Their founder is gonna promote it. All that stuff. So it seems like they're gonna just list a bunch of like quality projects as LP pairs to bootstrap liquidity, to I guess help their projects grow, and that's gonna create excitement around the entire farm. Because all those projects, like for example, like all these projects, like they have a community, right? And they're excited to like farm with their whatever favorite token. So yeah. Why am I not on Spectrum Finance on Terra? Because they're not audited, and I haven't really heard from anyone that it's like safe. So I'm not gonna be in a rush to like get into a hyper compounder, like an auto compounder on the Terra ecosystem. I mean, but like once like Do Kwon and like those people can like vouch on the safety of the project, sure, I'll enter it. But I don't see any reason to rush into something that's like not proven yet. How are you up money if the farm token dropped more than what you've won in one day? So I guess, so I've entered this like, let's see. I don't really know when I entered it, but let's just say like $3, right? Like the middle point in the first 24 hours or whatever. So, as I was farming this token, like I also earned all the swap fees, right? Proportional to like my share of the pool. And I've also like earned a bunch of tokens. So I can't do the math right here, at least like right now in my head, just because I'm a little tired and it's a little complicated. But this thing grows over time because I'm earning fees. Obviously, if the token goes down, then it'll also go down, right? Because that's how LP pairs work. But yeah, I mean, essentially, like when you're providing liquidity for Dino USDC, you're the exit liquidity for the farm and dumpers, right? So that's always the risk, right? Like if you've entered like pool 2 tokens, LP pairs for any other farm, you know, it's super high APRs, but that's how the project incentivizes you to be the exit liquidity for, you know, the hundreds of other people in the ecosystem. So that's always a risk, but yeah. Okay, so last question before I go to the AMA section. So this live stream, I'll went over DinoSwap, then I'll do some AMA questions that I crowdsourced on the Google Forms, and then I'll look at the chat for any questions. But the last question I'll answer is, am I in Olympus DAO? No, I'm not, but it's definitely interesting, and I'm going to spend a lot more time researching it in the next couple of weeks, but I might enter it if it like passes my due diligence test. But I think Olympus is really interesting. Olympus is one of those things, it's like Bitcoin, right? Like when you first hear about Bitcoin, you think it's a Ponzi, you think it's a scam. And that's what Olympus was for me, right? I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is like a floating algo coin that's backed by $1, by one DAI, and it's like 100,000 APY. It seems like a Ponzi, but after you read about it, like, I can kind of see the future in it. So we'll see. I gotta do my research. But let's go over to AMA. Okay, that's not it. Okay, so I feel like a lot of people on YouTube, like they click on those videos of like the Tether FUD, right? It's like, oh, Tether FUD, like Tether is backed by nothing. Tether is a scam, right? Because those videos tend to get a lot of clicks, and I guess my viewers just are scared of Tether. I mean, I get the scare, right? I mean, it is a little shady, but if you want to short Tether, I guess you can borrow Tether and then swap it for like USDC and like farm with that, right? Because if Tether goes to zero, then you just like profit, right? Because you shorted it and it went to zero. But I'm personally not too afraid of the Tether FUD. I think it's far blown, and I think it's mostly like what YouTubers and the media does to get clicks. So yeah, I went over it here. Whoops. Would you ever buy the native token of a farm? And yeah, I did it for Dino, right? And I went over the conditions on why I think it's the case. My thesis is that, you know, there's going to be a Stegosaurus pattern for the Dino token, and in this case, it's plus EV to enter the Dino USDC pool. To, you know, I'll lose some token. I'll lose some money in the LP, but the rewards, I guess the APY will make up for it. Okay, so I got two questions. So first, like thoughts on the Avalanche ecosystem, and then thoughts on the Harmony ecosystem. And this is the reason I made the video on Friday about the humble farmer thesis and how you should be thinking about various ecosystems and like the viability of, you know, those ecosystems and like the farms on there. And essentially the humble farmer thesis says that a good farming ecosystem needs two things: an AMM with good liquidity in the farm and a trusted, reliable money market, right? And anyone can create an AMM, right? Avalanche, Harmony, like they all have some AMM. It's super easy to make. But what's really, really difficult is a trusted and reliable money market. And if my thesis says that if an ecosystem does not fulfill these two, requirements, then it's not a place that I'm interested in deploying my capital. And, you know, this only looks at the current viability of the ecosystems, right? So right now, I'm not interested at all deploying like a lot of capital in the Harmony or Avalanche ecosystem, but that might change, right? If they build a money market or they have someone like Aave or Compound build on top of them. I know Harmony has like decent farms on the LP side, right? You can provide liquidity for ViperSwap or Sushi, but I mean, that's the extent of what's available in Harmony, right? You can only provide liquidity. Yeah, sure, you provide liquidity, but then like, now what? Like, what can I do? The advantages of Polygon is it has Aave, where I can put assets as collateral, borrow against it, and I guess deploy it in like hundreds of projects that exist, right? There's so much flexibility. And there's a lot of farms built on Polygon because there's so much liquidity. And my thesis says that a reliable money market is the requirement for, you know, billions of dollars to be locked in the ecosystem. So if you haven't checked out that video, I really recommend it. But yeah, like Avalanche, Solana, Harmony, Phantom, not interested because of those reasons. Yeah, and I heard like a lending protocol is on the way, and sure, like if it comes out, then cool. But for the time being, not interested at all. Is this okay? Yeah. So, any plans on holding Luna long term? I guess like yes. I bought a little bit of Luna, or I guess like I deployed some of my capital to Luna a few weeks ago. I guess like last week maybe. I do think it's interesting. I like the fact that it's a real life use case. I don't do price predictions because I think it's full of shit. But yeah, I think this is. I forgot to delete this slide, so I'm not gonna go over it too much. So, like, what would be the expected returns for stablecoin farms if you want to hold it for like a year, right? So I'm assuming that you're working a full-time job and you want to farm on stablecoins and you want to keep a super hands-off approach, right? You just want to put it somewhere and like not look at it. And if you're going to be super hands-off, I think the most likely scenario is that you're not going to make that much, right? Maybe under 10%. If you're depositing in something like Anchor, right? Then I can say like, yeah, maybe you can earn 20% over that year span. But in majority of these instances, it's going to be under 10%, right? Because I guess the idea of being a humble yield farmer is to look at the entire crypto ecosystem and look at where the yields are and then deploy your capital where you see fit, right? With like the best risk adjusted returns. And I guess in Q2, right? April, May, June, I was just going ham on Polygon, but now I'm acknowledging the fact that the Terra ecosystem also looks good. So now I've split my bags from from being all in Polygon to like half, just so like I can take advantages of yield opportunities in both ecosystems. And like when I target like yields for stablecoins, I usually target over 30%. And I think if you're being active enough, like 30% is easily attainable. And you can see like you can earn like a pretty good like 40-50% on Terra with like mostly stablecoins. So it just depends on how active you want to be. The more active you are, the better rates you're gonna get. The less active you are, you're just gonna get less, right? It's pretty obvious, but maybe it's helpful to say it out loud. So when the market goes risk on again, So when the market goes risk on again, I think obviously that if Bitcoin breaches $69,000, then like obviously there's going to be another craze, right? Like I'm sure like random coins are going to start pumping, and in that environment, then I do think it's a pretty good environment to enter more Degen yield farms, right? Just because there's more retail interest and money's going to be flowing everywhere, right? Because if you make a lot of money on like ETH or something, chances are a bunch of people will like sell some of that and then turn it into stable coins and then enter farms, right? That's just how people work. So yeah, if the market goes risk on, I'll be more aggressive. Obviously in the past 2 months, I haven't entered like a Degen yield farm, right? Outside of DinoSwap, which I entered a few days ago. But I'm also always going to have stable coins, right? Just because the yields that you can earn in stable coins is so high. I used to be like the typical retail investor that like had 100% of my portfolio and like volatile coins because like I just didn't want to miss the pump, right? But I guess the concept of yield farming introduces like a new type of portfolio strategy where you can how about you have like 80% of your assets in volatile assets and then 20% into stablecoins, right? And your stablecoins can earn you like 20-50%, like whatever, right? Depending on the risk you want to take and how active you want to be. And the stablecoin stack will allow you to buy any dips where you see fit. So not financial advice, but that's going to be my strategy going on. I'm always going to have a stablecoin stack because there's so much you can do with those stablecoins. So I don't know if you'll like my answer, but essentially like I used to track everything I did in Excel just because I just like keeping track for like tax reasons and stuff. But at this point, I've done so much on Matic that like I can't be fucked to track it anymore. So what I'm gonna do next April or next March is I'm gonna pay someone to do my taxes, right? Do my crypto taxes. I'll give it might be like token tax or like whatever tax company that specializes in crypto, but I'm like, all right, here's my wallet address. Just do it for me. Like I can't be bothered. Yeah, because I mean, when you're farming as active as I am, like there's just no way, right? There's no way. So I just included this question because this thing is called a cream pie swap. Like, come on. And they spelled it this way, so you know it's not as I guess vulgar, but it's a funny one. And no, I'm not entering it. I don't even know what it is, but I'm not entering it. Yeah, I kind of just went over my time frame, right? It's like I'm just gonna hyper compound my LPs for the first week or so, right? Maybe 3 to 7 days. Obviously, I can't say for sure because I mean it's something I'm tracking pretty carefully. So my strategy might change tomorrow based on like whatever information comes out. But my goal is to just add to my LPs in the first few days and then take profits afterwards. Because I do think that, you know, given the information presented, I think has a longer lifespan than other forms. Yeah, so why don't I do LP pairs for like Bitcoin ETH? Well, I do. I think Polygon, sorry, not Polygon. Curve is really good. I mean, this HI crypto pool, I haven't checked this, but yeah, I mean, this is earning, what is it, like 23%? And this is the LP pool where you can provide Bitcoin, ETH, or stable coins and earn 23%, which is nuts. Like I was in this before DinoSwap, and I was like making, you know, a bunch of Curve and Matic a day. And I think this is really underrated because the impermanent loss here is not that high. But people just, I think people just get scared of like, oh, impermanent loss sounds bad. I always went over, I guess, this application where like, let's see, imagine this is stable coins, right? Oops. And this is 33% weighting, 34, it has to add up to 100%, so it's gonna be 34 here. But Bitcoin, let's say Bitcoin just gigapumps, right? It just doubles and ETH gigapumps to ETH triples, right? Obviously in this scenario, like you're still gonna be making money on your deposit, right? Earning 23%, and the impermanent loss is only 9%. And this is like a very unlikely scenario. A more likely scenario is like Bitcoin goes up like 25% and ETH goes up 50%, and then the impermanent loss is 1%, right? And that's a risk that I'm willing to take if I'm entering this, especially if I'm earning 23%. I mean, this also goes to the other side as well. Like if Bitcoin dumps -10 and ETH dumps -20, then, you know, obviously you're not that happy, but, you know, impermanent loss is not that big of a deal when you're dealing with like relatively stable pairs. Let's see. Is yield farming on this budget worth it? If you only have under $1,000, I think only Polygon is worth it. I think anything under 1,000, I think Terra and Binance Smart Chain is iffy because I think Terra's like transaction fee is like 25 cents. I think Binance Smart Chain it fluctuates, but if you have $1,000, then I suggest Polygon just because transaction fees are 0 essentially. Yeah, so I went over this humble farmer thesis. Not interested in deploying significant capital into Harmony. SushiSwap and BiForSwap pretty decent, but I mean that's all you can do, right? It's not too exciting. So Cardano, right? So I guess in the year 2030, when they have smart contracts, I'll evaluate it, right? I went over this with DinoSwap. Yeah, so always like, I think Twitter, despite what you might think of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, whatever, I do think Twitter is the best place to get like the latest news. Because you can get news in real time, right? And if you follow the right people, you can just get news, right? And you should just like follow like the main blockchains like Polygon, ETH, and like Harmony, like all those big accounts like Terra, and then they're gonna retweet things and you're gonna like look into them, and then you're gonna find. Then like if you follow me, I sometimes like retweet people with like really good takes, and then you can follow those people, and then you know over time you're gonna like follow like a few hundred people with like a few hundred relatively smart people, and then you're just gonna like identify opportunities along the way. Weird question, but like literally like I used Amazon Basics. So like despite what it seems like me just throwing money around in these farms, I'm pretty cheap when it comes to like my real life expenses. Like I don't really buy clothes because like, you know, I gotta save money to DCA into Bitcoin or ETH or something. So yeah, I just went over this. But I think it's good. I think it's good. I think it's very underrated. But anyways, that's the end of the pre-sourced Q&A section. Now I'm going to look into the chat. So ask your questions there. And maybe you want me to clarify anything for Dino Farm, or just anything, just ask me questions. Yeah. Let's see. Do you think Iron Finance token has potential? No, I don't. But I haven't followed whatever they're doing, so I don't know, but I don't think so. Oh, speaking of which, let's see. I think this is a pretty cool story by the Defiant. Feel free to look this up if you're interested. Pretty good report by Defiant. But essentially, if you don't know anything about Alameda, it's Sam Bankman-Fried's company behind FTT, FTX. They're also back on Solana. And a lot of funds, a lot of VCs, like they farm, right? Like they have a stablecoin stack and they farm with it. And there was this proposal on July 11th by Adamant to blacklist Alameda's wallet, just because like half of the TVL on Adamant was from Alameda, and they were just like dumping the tokens, and a bunch of people were like upset because the ADI token went down. And I mean, you can like argue about the ethical nature of this proposal, but it ended up not passing. But Alameda farms hard on Polygon, okay? Alameda farms hard, and they make a lot of money. Yeah, they were like smashing Curve and Convex on ETH, and then they were also in Iron Finance V2. So if you, at the peak, they hit like 1.5 billion in TVL, I think, and over half of it was from Alameda, right? 800 million was from Alameda, and they were just 53.5%, and they were just dumping those tokens on your face, like making a lot of money, right? So you got to think about who's playing the game, right? Like it was pretty obvious from the beginning that like, you know, Iron Finance, like, you know, it's a good stablecoin farm, but it's not gonna last forever. And Alameda was, I think they were also part of V1, and I think they got out because they were like smart. But you know, like ICE, yeah, they made 2 million out of that's crazy. They made like 2.5x. Obviously, I mean, they probably didn't capture that because like as they sell, the price will go down. But it's a pretty cool article if you want to look into it yourself. But you know, I guess when I started making videos, and I guess I got like approval from like people in the space that like, okay, like Taiki kind of knows what he's doing, you know, kind of. I've had some like funds reach out to me. I was like, hey, like I like your videos. And that was like when I realized that like, oh my God, like all these funds, like they farm, right? Because if you're a fund or VC and you have like dollars sitting, like what are you doing, right? You should at least put it into something and earn a yield. And you can see that like even like a market maker like Alameda is farming with it, with their stable coins, and a lot of funds are just farming with stable coins. So now you argue that like DinoSwap, like over like roughly $400 million. I'm sure most of this is from like funds and like whales and VCs. And I'm sure they're just like accumulating Dino through the stablecoin pool, right? And maybe this is like the shady part of it, right? Because I think yesterday the developers of DinoSwap, they like increased the multiplier of the USDC USDT pool by 2x, meaning that this pair gets twice as much tokens than like USDC Mimetic. And I'm sure like a bunch of funds that backed it, right? These guys, they have money on the USDC Tether pair, and they're like, hey guys, like I want to deploy capital on your farm. Can you boost the stablecoin pairs? And I mean, I'm just speculating, right? I have no idea what they talk about, but you know, that's something that might be happening. I don't really mind. I mean, I guess it depends who you are. But you might mind, but yeah. Just think about it, right? If you're a whale and you have like millions of dollars in stablecoins, think how easy life is for you, right? You just like find a safe farm, put capital on it, like go to vacation, come back, and like have like $10,000, right? It's like, God, it would be nice to be a whale. Like, that's everyone's goal. Let's see. Yeah, and SBF, like, if you look at like anything that gets listed on FTT, like Keeper DAO, like it got listed on FTT, it dumped. Mark the top. Lumber, listed on FTT, it dumped. And then there was like drama with, let's see, hold up. And there was beef between like Alameda and Refinance back in March, where like the whatever, I don't know what Refinance does, but their team accused Alameda of like just dumping their tokens for a profit. And like, you know, I feel like in the future, like whenever Alameda lists something, I'm just gonna assume it's the top. And just like, if I own a token that Alameda lists or FTT lists, I'm gonna just sell like half of it or something. Let's see. Someone in the chat changed their profile pic to SBF, and he was like, "Hi, you called?" It's a funny one. Hi, Sam. If you're watching this, then thanks for dumping on my ass. Actually, yeah, I think Alameda's in this probably, huh? I'm sure yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just guessing, right? I'm sure Alameda's in this. Sorry, there's a lot of questions, so I might not get into all of it. I'm an absolute Chad buying Dino USDC. Hey, you know, you gotta take the. Well, let's see where it's at. Yeah. So my hypothesis is that maybe like in a month, the price of Dino is gonna look like a fucking Stegosaurus, right? This is my hypothesis. Okay. If this happens, then I do well. Or if I get wrecked, if this happens, then yeah, I lose some money. But it's fine, right? It's fine. I know the risk I'm taking, and given the risk I'm taking, I think the rewards are worth it. It's like trading, right? Like if you're taking if you're risking $100, then the risk reward, like your target should be like $200, $300, right? Just like I'm just like thinking of it that way. I come from a poker background, so I'm just all about like calculating EV and then taking high EV bets, and like I'm like diversifying some risk by just being in this one, right? Because this is a stablecoin pair. Like it's not gonna like go down or anything. This is the risk I'm taking, but it's a risk I'm willing to take, and only time will tell, right? Only time will tell. There's a bunch of people that's like, hey Tucky, are you in drip? Are you in drip? I don't even know what that is, but then someone's like, no way he isn't a drip. It's so shady. That's a legit Ponzi. It probably is, to be honest. I don't know what that is, but it's probably a Ponzi. The chart already looks like the empty head Wojak. Oh fuck, dude. Oh no. Oh no. Let's see. How do I do this? Maybe this will happen. This is a dream, right? This is the Wojak pattern. let me make this thicker so it's more likely to happen. There you go. That's more like it. Also, Janet Yellen meeting tomorrow on stablecoins. Yeah, so I tweeted about this. Let's see. It's interesting. I'm not smart enough to really figure this out, but I saw this photo where, let's see, introduce a CBDC and tax private stablecoins out of existence. I'm like, what? And I guess they could do that if they wanted to, if they see it as a threat, because USDC and Circle. I mean, Circle's gonna IPO, so I don't know how that's gonna work, but what if the government's like, you know what, Circle, I don't like USDC, I'm gonna increase your tax rate. I don't know how constitutional that is, but and I don't know how possible this scenario is, but it's definitely scary, right? And I guess the risk with centralized stablecoins is that we don't know. There's no precedent on what the government can do to attack stablecoins, right? Because they want control and power over the money, right? That's how they have the monopoly. Oh, sorry, that's how they have power over the world, right? Because they have a monopoly on money. So yeah, it doesn't sound good. Maybe this is a threat that UST and OHM solves. There's other stablecoin, all the other algo stablecoins, but I guess the risk with centralized stablecoins is that we don't know what the government can do. So maybe we do need something like UST, or we need something like OHM. And OHM is weird. It's Olympus style. Yeah, I'm not gonna go over Olympus style right now because it's an entire rabbit hole. Maybe I'll cover it in the future after I feel more comfortable with it. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. Let's see. Anyways. Yeah, okay. Sorry, back to the questions. I got a little distracted. Okay. I don't have a Telegram group, but I have a Discord. The link is in the description below. Yeah, hold on. I've been going on for how long? Okay, 68 minutes. Yeah, this is the Wojak distribution pattern, right? What the fuck? This is the Wyckoff distribution. This is the Wyckoff accumulation, right? And this is the Wojak redistribution. And this is when your favorite influencer is calling for $50 DinoSwap. Oh nice, currently in the bracelet event for the WSOP. I might be down in Vegas later for the WSOP. I don't know if I'll play tournaments. I'll probably play cash, 2-5 or 5-10. I haven't played live poker in so long. It's been, how long has it been? Maybe a year and a half. Yeah, last year I just played online for an entire year, and I just dumped my entire profit into Bitcoin. I was a Bitcoin maxi last year, and then this year I just turned into a DeFi degen, I guess. Let's see. How long am I gonna keep making videos? I mean, I'll keep making videos. I enjoy it, and I think I'm good at what I do. I think my logic, my thinking, my thought process is decent, and I think over time I'll be successful, and maybe DinoSwap will prove me wrong and I get completely wrecked, and then you can give me shit on Twitter, right? Like this guy got wrecked, like this guy's a scrub, or maybe like my thesis plays out, and I'm like trying to create a brand for myself, right? Like creating this fucking meme called the humble farmer thesis, and I talked to a fund, like someone who like manages a portfolio, and he was like, I really like the humble farmer thesis, and my goal is like 5 years from now, or like maybe like next year, like there's like Arthur 0x on a podcast, and he's like, yeah, there's like this guy, he came up with the humble farmer thesis, and we use that model to assess where to deploy our capital. That's the ultimate goal, right? It's like to have these rich, smart people who's very reputable to be like saying things like humble farmer thesis on national television, or just like podcasts, like on Bankless or Up Only or something. That would be fun. How much capital did I start with? So I guess like the point of the channel is for me to be transparent, right? And if you look at back in April, I made like my first video on Polygon. I think like late April, and I started out with Polygon around 17,000, I think. Yeah, and I forget what I have now, but I think I'm at like 32 or something. So I've done pretty well for the past, I guess, 3 months, especially in a bear market. My strategy focuses mostly on like safer farms, right? Like stablecoin pairs or like Bitcoin, like, things like that. But I think there is a time and place to take on some risk. And I guess the risk of me being transparent is if I get wrecked, then, everyone knows I get wrecked. But if I succeed, then, it also looks good. Because I also see like other YouTubers, it's like they make like random clickbait videos of like, I'm up 500%, right? And they just like use the percent amount, but like they've only deployed like $100 or something. I don't want to say only $100, but like, you know what I mean? It's like they probably like spread their farms across like 10 farms, and like they make whatever video that like ends up working for them. I come from like a business marketing background, so I do think it's important to like be transparent and stuff. Let's see. Yeah. I love this graph though. This is yeah. Yeah, I think the questions are pretty much stopped. I'm just gonna scroll up like half an hour ago to see if there's any good questions. Actually, yeah, so I'm probably gonna wrap up the stream in the next 10 minutes unless there's like a bunch of good questions. Actually, let me check the forums. Maybe they're updated. I don't know, man. I'll just send the stream on the Wojak redistribution chart. If this plays out, then it'll be funny. But thank you guys for watching. I'll post the video tomorrow, right? I'm gonna do farms of the week. I'm gonna do that every Monday, so you can kind of see what farms I'm in, and then what farms I'm also looking at, right? I'm a little worried that like every week I'll talk about the same farms, but like maybe that's useful too. It's like, like this farm this week, not that many good farms. Here are like the 5 farms I'm watching. I'll do that, and then depending on how this thing does, I'll make videos on that too. So thank you for watching. There's a Discord in the description below. Follow me on Twitter. I try to post every day. Try to provide alpha, but most of the time I shit post. So maybe do that. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good one. Actually, hold on. Bye, everyone. Sleepy little buddy. All right.